arranged or already done with your mentors. DEOC survey, please do the DEOC survey. You all should have gotten passwords, it's been talked about quite a bit. Just to reiterate, it is not mandatory. It is completely optional, but we would really like it if you did it. It's the only way that we get good feedback about the unit. If you want any changes to happen, then the DEOC survey is the way to do it. Good job on study hours this last week. Only 2 people didn't complete them, so keep that up. Shared Drive Access spreadsheet. It was shared with all of you, and I reminded you in the weekly word email, but here are the people who have not done it. O.C. Boyd, Chapelier, Jay Harris, Callis Lang, Mahachik, Manicki, Thomas, Morgan, Ovenshire, Randall, Brownhorse, Schuler, Stevens, and Stewart. So please get that done.
Got a question about that.
What's up?
It told me to like request something, and I did, and no one ever like. Am I supposed to do something back?
It's a Google Doc. It should just let you on with the link, but
I tried it on several different
okay,
computers.
we can resend it to you.
Yeah.
I'm actually very confused with that because it just opened up a spreadsheet that said yes or no.
Yeah. Do you have shared drive access or no? It's a yes.
No
or
idea. I mean, there was no instructions for that email. That's why I'm asking. It just opened a doc that said yes or no. So I
Okay.
didn't know how to answer that.
Well, we passed it in lab last week, and then it was again in the weekly word email. So now
I will
you know.
double check that.
All right. I have just been told that Kleesner will be hosting Calc 1 tutoring after Thursday labs, and Calc 2 tutoring at 1700 on Sundays. So good job, Kleesner. I don't know if he's here, but thanks for that. Everyone go with that. If you're in Calc 1 or 2, if you're having trouble, go absorb his knowledge. 05 March at 1400 is the Kiwanis Pancake Breakfast. For those of you who haven't done it before, it's at a church in Ames, and we go and we clean up afterwards, clean off their grills, put away all the tables and chairs. It's a really nice thing that we do. We've been doing it for a lot of years. So if you're not going to the drill meet, we're going to need you for that, because we have a lot of people gone. Is that mandatory, or we need a chit if we are in town but unavailable, or not going to the drill meet but unavailable for that weekend? I'll check back with you. As of right now, I don't think it's mandatory. It's always been a volunteer event.
Could you repeat that date?
05 March.
Okay, thank you.
5th of March, Saturday. It'll be at 1400. It'll take 2 or 3 hours. Real quick and easy.
I think you get free pancakes.
You do get free pancakes. Thank you for mentioning that. There is free food right when you get there, and then you clean up. So it's awesome. Just come do that.
I will do a working party for.
All right, and then in the email last Friday, I mentioned the CO's command plan. It is posted in the wardroom. I also attached it to the email, so you should read that if you get a chance. And I'll just summarize it really quick for you. So as you can see here, there's a where we've been section and a where we're going section. It kind of lays out all the good things we've done and everything we need to work on coming up here. So where we've been, he emphasized, we started with 10 people on FEP, so we really need to improve that. We have gotten some of those people off, so good job everyone who did that. We are working towards that goal. Class advisor switched up, and that was really hectic, but good job everyone working with your new class advisor, getting all your stuff done, getting those counselings done. We have 2 guests arranged for the awards ceremony and dinner, so that'll be awesome. I hope everyone's looking forward to that. And then where we're going, academics. As I said, we've got Calc tutoring arranged. We've got people working on getting you tutors if you've applied and haven't been assigned one yet. So everyone really just focus up on academics. We're really stressing that. DEOC survey, which we just talked about. Please do the DEOC survey. We're still working on the strategic plan. It's coming along quite nicely. And if you're applying for a scholarship again this year, you should know Marine scholarships are due in March and Navy are due in May. Anyone have any questions? What's up?
I heard just roaming around, do you have an approximate price for what the award ceremony is going to be for?
25, 30, and 40.
25, 30, and 40. Is
25 for
that,
freshmen, 30 for sophomores, and maybe juniors, I can't remember. And then seniors and the staff are 40. And I just approved those today, so Ms. Radke should have those out.
sounds good, sir. Anyone else?
Can you get a show of hands for ship selection?
All right, so next week, there's a ship selection party for me. Everyone should be there, because I'm really great. Who can be there? We need to get a rough count for food. All right, 2 people, Wednesday at 1500. All right, like 6 people.
Don't move it.
Alright, I got about 15.
Yes? Do you have a question?
Who hasn't had this?
Thinking, and I didn't think about everything at one time.
And then we got to over there.
Hi. Chair? Oh, so
Just sit down, we'll stand right here.
what's for Pollard?
Power,
Oh.
budget. You tried though.
I'm here for you.
For me? You probably.
I will pick your nose.
If you walked in late and haven't gotten the sign-in sheet, make sure you get it.
I will pick your nose and then you in the lab.
Just over 30 minutes or so.
Do you have the sheet?
Did it? It took me
We should have current events.
Took me 20
Johnson, you do your current events.
Soon.
First platoon squad leaders, current events. Hi, squad leader.
Alright, so for the current event today, it's going to be regarding the budget for the fiscal year of 2017. The budget was released on 9 February, so it's relatively new, and it is guided by Admiral Richardson's design for maintaining maritime superiority. So as you can see, the budget will be for $165 billion for the year of 2017. And that will include the increased readiness and personnel support. So this will include a 1.6% increase in pay, as well as added billets. And some of those billets include base security, as well as officer manning. And there will also be an increased emphasis on matching sailors with jobs in the fleet. And that's to ensure that sailors are being trained and also retained in the fleet, so there's not as much turnover. $17.3 billion will be in place towards research and development for the Navy and Marine Corps team, ensuring that they're able to handle all situations and all adversaries at any time. The Navy will also be buying 7 new ships, and you can see them outlined here, as well as one new one that will be pretty cool. And 94 aircraft as well, with 2 F-18s, and this is in order to mitigate the strike fighter shortage that's been happening over the past couple of years. There'll also be 14 next year.
Alright, so when these budgets come out, they're a pretty lengthy document. I know we didn't have the current Secretary of the Navy highlights, so we used, the last one was about 94 pages. So these are the main takeaways from the 2017 budgets. So first one, jobs, obviously. So they're decreasing about 6,300 jobs total. And it seems like a lot, but a lot of them are taken from one general area, specifically the Carrier Air Wing 14 base located in California. So the reason that they're cutting that is to kind of match up the number of air wings to the number of deployable carriers. So that will just make a more efficient operation there. Next is new ships. So like I said earlier, they're adding about 7 new. There was supposed to be a 3rd littoral combat ship, but we no longer have the funds to buy that. So that has been scratched from the budget. New aircrafts, he mentioned before the aircrafts being made, and in addition to that, we're also going to have about 10 new drones that they've invested in making. Next, new missiles. So advances in weaponry systems, they're really putting a lot of time and effort and money into that. So we're investing in things such as the Hellfire, Longbow Hellfire missiles for littoral combat ships, as well as joint air-to-ground missiles. Last takeaway is the docking of cruisers. So this is more from a financial standpoint. They want to save money. So by parking cruisers pierside, it saves money and manpower. Those aren't out, so we don't have to pay the people on that, and then it ensures readiness for future. So those are going to be fresh and ready to go at when they're needed.
As we stated earlier, this information came out on the 9th of February, so it's relatively new. And because of that, we were unable to access some of the graphs from this year, but these are actually the graphs from last year. So as you can see, the number of personnel has been on a decline for a while. However, by the year of 2020, there should be another increase. In 2016, as of last year, there's supposed to be another peak. And this graph here just depicts who's where. So the number of midshipmen is actually increasing as of last year, as well as the number of officers.
And this graph is showing the Marine Corps manpower. So again, it's shown that there was a slight decrease, but it's going to plateau out, and the level of officers remained the same in the last year, but enlisted went down slightly.
Are there any questions?
Hey, one of the reasons to do this current events was to give you a chance to ask questions and to talk about things that you think are important. So, I don't know all the answers, but I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have about the budget. Yes?
Sir, how much of the budget is being put into, are we implementing new carriers as well?
Actually, that's a very slow process. We've been working on the newest carrier for quite some time. I'd say in the neighborhood of about 10 years. We've tried to get a new carrier out. So the carriers are really the pivot point for everything else that we do in the Navy, right? It determines how we deploy, and all those things are based on how many carriers we have. So the carrier is a set piece. As long as we don't decommission any, we'll stay where we are. The one new one that you saw up there is to support our amphibious side, okay, on the amphibious carriers. And that makes sure that we have enough ARGs and MEUs to go out and do their deployments.
So if I say correct, is the USS Enterprise, they're bringing it back?
They're replacing it with Reagan, I guess. They're gonna replace it. But, yes?
So they stated in their presentation that 6,300 jobs will be more or less eliminated, and this is from one specific area. What area will that be?
Yeah, they just talked about, they're gonna take away an air wing.
Oh, right.
They're gonna, and that just lines it up with carriers, makes sense. And a lot of times how they do these is those people that have those jobs now, they'll go to other jobs in other locations, and people that are retiring just won't be replaced. That's how a lot of times when you have numbers of that size, it seems significant to us, but that's a very small number when you compare it to the overall civilian population or Navy population. Yes?
So where does the F-35 fit in this budget?
Good question. I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I don't know that we have an answer to that yet. They're having so much trouble with the aircraft that I don't know what it's going to happen. It was supposed to solve a lot of problems for us, but that hasn't really come to fruition. The aviation community is kind of in a holding pattern. The EXO can probably tell you more about it. I'm not an aviator, but the EXO can probably tell you more about it than I can. But the aviation community, not only in the Navy, but in the Air Force, is being held hostage by some of our problems with Joint Strike Fighter, and those kinds of things have all caused delays in manufacturing. The delays in manufacturing means the replacements haven't been there. If you know anything about aircraft have frame times associated with them, right? Airframes only last so long, based on the stress, how many flight hours it has, what maneuvers it's done, all these kinds of things. All those things are factored in, kept in logs. And we've flown a lot of aircraft way past their life, okay? Like the 46s, probably the best example of when we flew forever. But that's the problem. You have to go back in. If you're going to fly those longer, you have to go back in and restructure them. You have to fix them. You have to make sure any cracks or anything like that, you have to restructure their frames to make sure that they're going to survive while they're flying these additional hours. So that's the problem that we're having, is we're using a lot of our money right now to keep airframes flying that we would have decommissioned by now, because the Joint Strike Fighter, 35, and others haven't come online as quickly as we like. That answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Other things? Yes?
Sir, you talked about the fact that the carriers are the linchpin of what we do. How is our budget going to change once distributed lethality actually takes over and we actually start implementing that versus just talking about it?
Well, you got to define distributed lethality to me.
Yes, sir. That's like the idea. Sorry for everyone. That's the idea of instead of just having our nuclear submarines and the carrier air wing be the two things that scare people, is the idea of the fact that we have all these LCS class ships that we're pumping out. We have the new Zumwalt class. We have all these cruisers that apparently we're just gonna park and that'll somehow make them more ready, which I think anybody knows is ships that parking them doesn't help. So they're all supposed to fit into this idea of distributed lethality, which means that we're gonna distribute our force, our lethality extends outward, so it's hard to just make one concise strike and cripple a force.
Okay.
Because as it sits right now, you cripple the carrier, everyone has this idea that the US fleet just kind of falls apart, when really most of the attacks that we've been launching have been off by carriers. But with the Tomahawk land attack missiles from both submarines and surface ships, we have a pretty solid strike capability.
Well, we do have a solid striking capability, but limited in the fact that how many Tomahawks do you have on board? Tomahawks have been in short supply for quite a while.
Well, that's what I mean.
So I think part of the problem is that we're going to depend on carriers for a long time to come. I don't see any way around it. The carrier, we can bring something that you can't bring with the ship. I don't care what size ship you have. The smaller ships are good for surgical kind of strikes. You can distribute them better. But I still think the problem's going to be that if you want a target package, the right kind of target package, many times you need a carrier and an air wing to pull that off. And you can't pull it off with many of our submarines or our surface ships because of the type of strikes that you're going after in many cases. So I think it's a good concept, but I don't think it's going to take away the carriers in the near future. Why don't you three guys come up here and have a seat? Stand up in the back right there. I do want to make one point about, come on, Mr. Smith. All right, I want to make one point about these laying up of the cruisers. If you notice that, big savings, $3 billion, right? $3 billion, that's with a B. All right, and in 5 years, I don't know if that's really the way that works or not, but I've been part of this effort in the past to put things in layup, where you just set it next to the pier, you have a caretaker for it, usually a bunch of civilians that go around, sometimes they'll use military personnel, but they just go and they make sure the bilges aren't flooding, make sure there's no fires going on, basically they just walk around the ship a couple times a day. We have put a bunch of alarm systems on board to make sure that if anything's bad's going on, we'll, but you can imagine, park your car in the garage for a few years, and then I tell you, okay, now, pull it out and drive it just like you used to. What do you think's gonna happen? Where's all my engineers? What's going to happen to all the gaskets? They're going to all dry rot, right? Because they don't have any oil on them anymore. They're being lubricated. Things are going to stop working. So conceptually, this looks great. From a financial standpoint, it's vitally important. We have tried to get rid of the cruisers. They are a huge money sum. The whole top of them was built with a certain type of metal, and that metal is basically cracking and falling apart. And to put them back together would be an inordinate amount of money. And we have tried to just delete them from the inventory. But Congress won't let us. Yes?
Sir, and then my next question on the follow-up for that is, what are they going to do with all the 06s?
Well, the problem, that's a minor problem in the bigger scheme of things. What did these cruisers used to do?
Air operations.
They were shotgun for the carriers, right? Now who's going to be a shotgun for the carriers? DDGs. So that means DDGs are getting pulled off of missions they're already doing. You can see the complication that I don't want to get into it too deep, but the point is, conceptually this is a great idea. In reality, very hard for us to bring those back online quickly if we need to. But it's all based on money. All of this is based on money. It's going to cost us a whole lot of money if we're going to make those cruisers keep steaming. The amount of money it would take out of our operational budget is too much for us. So we're trying to find a way to appease Congress and at the same time financially be able to maintain our Navy with the money that we have right now. So you see the challenge, right? Congress wants it this way. The Navy says we only have this much money. So the Navy's trying to find something in the middle. This has to be approved by Congress. All right, so we're back in the same situation we were in before. If they don't approve this, then we'll keep running the cruisers. And we'll spend whatever amount of money it takes to do that. But it means that we won't build another ship, or something else has to give in some way, shape, or form. The last point that I want to make with you is personnel-wise. You will see in many of the other services that they are cutting personnel. In fact, I've heard from the Army, I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard from the folks right here that their commanding officer, that people are coming back from deployment and getting a pink slip. Basically, thank you very much for your service, go home. All right? The Navy did a really good job early in the process, about 7 years ago, with downsizing. The Marine Corps has always been pretty good at level loading. They kind of know what they need, and they work toward that end. It's been painful at times for them, but they've done a good job at it. The Navy we resized ourselves down over the last several years, and we're just about where we need to be. So from a Navy and Marine Corps standpoint, the manning is, the changes that are happening are very minimal compared to what you're going to see in the Army at a minimum, and I don't know exactly what's going to happen in the Air Force. But manpower is a money up front. Do you understand that? Do you understand what I mean by money up front?
No, sir.
What does that mean? Who thinks they know what that means? Anybody? Yes.
Sir, it's money you put down now for benefits later?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's all your paychecks. It's all that medical that you get. It's everything that's associated with you is money they got to spend right now. It's not money they can spend 10 years from now or 5 years from now. Like when you're building these ships, it's timed over, the build of the ship. Your paycheck, you got to have it today, right? I mean, whatever day you're getting paid. So that's money they got to have in the account right now. When you get ready to move, it costs about $10,000 to move an officer. One officer, $10,000, right? Wow, that's a lot. So, gunnery sergeant's getting ready to move this summer, right? I don't know how much it is for a gunnery sergeant to move. Let's just say it's $10,000. They got to have $10,000 right now. So when they write his orders, they can pay the moving truck, they can pay all the things that are going to go with that move. You see how personnel costs, big costs, sunk costs right now. Other things, you can parlay them out over time. You can't do that with people. So it's important that you size the force correctly to begin with. And the Navy and Marine Corps have done a really good job with that. The Army is now feeling the squeeze because their budget's going to be reduced significantly, and the only way to meet that bill is get rid of people. Because you get instant gratification when you get rid of somebody, all right? They go away, and money. Okay? You got money all of a sudden because you're not paying their paycheck anymore. All right. Anything else? Any other questions? Yes, Mr.
Sorry, I have
Crum.
one question. With the money that they think they're going to save keeping the cruisers on pier side, do you think they could phase those out and replace those with a new class of ship that could be the same mission?
I don't think you're ever going to see another cruiser. I think what the Zumwalt is supposed to do for us, only going to be 3 of them, right? What it's supposed to do for us is it's supposed to allow us to test out all the different things we would like to put on a ship. And I think at some point within the next 5 to 10 years, that you will see the fruit of that, and we will come up with another class of ship. But I think they're going to be along the line of a DDG size. I don't think you're ever going to see a cruiser-sized ship again. Only carriers.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I was just wondering, sir, they mentioned that there was an increase in the midshipman population.
Mhm.
I was wondering how that would affect funding that was being sent to the NROTC units and also the availability of scholarships.
Well, the way it's really, I mean, it's only a small amount of change, and actually it's going to change over the next 2 years. So this year, as I explained at the State of the Union brief, this year it's going to be kind of, it's going to be hard to get a scholarship. But next year, it looks like it'll be better. It's not going to change anything from what we get as a budget, if that's what you're talking about as far as money goes. All it does is, depending on what the whole population is, dependent on 2 things, really 3 things. There's 3 ways to get officers in the Navy. Really, 3 ways to get them in the Marine Corps too. Naval Academy, all right, about 900 graduates every year, all right. NROTC, again, about 900 graduates a year. And OCS, or PLC, I think it is for the Marine Corps, right? That's the way we get commissioned officers. you only need X number of officers. So that's apportioned over that. So the number doesn't really significantly change, and it won't change our budget whatsoever. It just means that the more officers that we bring into the program, the more money, tuition money we have to pay. The problem, the challenge in the NROTC program is the cost of tuition continues to go up in almost every state. We at Iowa State, a little bit, hasn't happened as much here, but most of the universities around the country, the cost is going up. So that bill that we're paying for tuition is going like that, quickly. That's the problem that we're gonna have. At the out years, about 5 years from now, there's not enough money in the budget to pay that. They'll get it fixed by the time we get there. But the point is, right now, I mean, if you look at it, there's no way that we can pay the bill 5 years from now with the money that we're currently planning to be getting in that year. All right, so it's called the out years, and the out years budget won't pay the bill. We're trying to figure out ways to cut costs so that we can pay that tuition bill, because that's the biggest bill associated with NROTC. Okay, any other questions? I hope this is helpful. And we'll do current events as often as y'all want to do current events, and I'll tell you what I know. When I don't know, I'll say I don't know. All right, thanks. Kids, right?
Who's gonna be the best?
Good job, first platoon. We get third platoon to do their sapper skit first, and then we're gonna have second. And then first platoon gets a break because they just gave us a presentation.
Whose skit's gonna be best? Hey, we'll vote at the end. We'll vote. You gotta be non-biased. You gotta change up a little bit. You gotta vote.
No, I got these already, and I saw it, and one of the more balanced thing ever.
Alright, good afternoon, everyone. So, starting soon, we'll be doing our sapper skit on nonverbal sexual harassment. Midshipman Stevens is going to be our victim. Midshipman Stewart is going to be our perpetrator. So, there's no confusion on that.
Everybody using the screen? Everybody using the screen for these skits? Good.
So, what are you up to?
Bringing spaces like we're ordered, unlike you.
Okay, that's fair. Do you need any help then?
No, and I appreciate it if you'd stop checking me out. Thanks, Nick.
What are you talking about? I haven't said anything at all.
Wonderful acting skills by them. So what could have Midshipman Stevens here done to stop the situation from evolving from where it started?
He could have removed himself from the situation. If he's the only one up here, he'd probably go to, say, the wardroom where there's gonna be a lot more people around.
Okay.
You could have been more confrontational with telling him to get away. I didn't like what he's doing.
Like back off kind of thing? Very good. So how was Midshipman Stewart, our perpetrator, in the wrong in this particular occasion? What did he do?
He was making Stevens feel uncomfortable.
How so?
The way he was looking at him, Stevens caught him looking at him, or just the way he was like getting into personal space. Possibly comments he was making towards him also, and then just saying that in a certain tone that made him uncomfortable.
Okay.
He also didn't back off when he asked him to, or he told him to leave him alone. He got closer to him and then said, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so all of those things we should be not doing in this sort of situation. How could the victim have handled the situation in an immediate fashion if he felt uncomfortable? So you came after him again, what would you have done differently?
removed myself and walked away from the situation.
You could also maybe potentially tell someone too after walking away, so that's another thing that can be done if you're worried about this situation continuing. If you saw this instance happening in front of you, how would you help dissolve the situation? Shipman, Johnson? Go, Johnson first.
I would insert myself into the situation and, not only either for Stevens, but also make sure Stewart knew that there was someone else in the situation, so he knew it was not.
If I walked in the room, I would maybe call Midshipman Stewart. If I saw what was happening while walking into the room, I would probably ask Midshipman Stewart to come help me do something, and then in private tell him, hey, this is what you were doing. Midshipman Stevens was uncomfortable about it. Next time, please don't do that, because obviously it made him feel uncomfortable.
Jimmy Baxter?
You could also see if Midshipman Stevens wanted to come with you and help you with something so you get out of the situation, so.
So distract him from the situation
Well,
that we're trying to say?
like, Midshipman Lang was saying that he would have Midshipman Stewart come with him to keep him away from Stevens, but you could also have Stevens come with you so that you wouldn't have to be around Stewart anymore.
Okay. So that's all we have. Is there any other questions about?
What would be the wrong way to handle the situation? Somebody, okay.
Just let it happen, Gunner, sir.
Okay.
Join in?
No, all right. Now, how could you talk to Stevens? What would be the wrong way to address Stevens? Because you're like, hey, what can he do to get out of the situation or stop the situation? My first instinct with that first question you had was, you're making him the wrong guy. You're making it like it's his fault. So how could you handle this the wrong way, or what way could be misinterpreted, other than the obvious we just stated? But what is something you think at first might work or help, but then if you actually think about it, it's going to be a little bit different, or make the victim think that they did something wrong? So give me a bad example of someone trying to do the right thing.
Stevens, don't worry about it. He's like this all the time, like, don't worry about it.
What else? From someone over here? What?
Gunner Sargent, if you go too far and knock out Midshipman Stewart.
It's true. Now, if Stevens turns around and calls Stewart all kinds of fancy names, is he allowed to do that just because he felt threatened? Because then you got a different type, then he becomes a victim, and then it's a whole bunch of big and everything else. So I think creating space is the best part, and then letting someone know what happened, at least get it documented, and then going from there. If you come in and it's that obvious, then Stewart needs to get brought to somebody, and it needs some kind of written down and documentation on that. There's no reason it should go that far. That's just my 2 cents. But you understand how you can say, Steven, what are you doing, man? Why are you letting Stewart look at you like that? Or whatever. If you make him feel he's the bad guy and you're trying to just lighten the mood, you can make him feel bad about it, and later on he's going to think about it and he won't know exactly who to go to or what to do. So you got to be careful when you go in there and try to lighten the mood, because you're giggling and it's funny, but if it's dead serious for him, it has to be dead serious to you. Whoever comes to you as an officer or as a leader, if they come to you with a problem, regardless of how silly you think it is, because a lot of your problems I think are silly. But when you come to me with your problem, I have to be straight-faced and accept the fact that this is very serious to you, and we got to work through that problem. If I laugh at you, will you ever come to me again? No. I have to make sure that you understand that your problem is just as important to me as it is to you.
One other thing to add is, you saw in the videos that we displayed for equal opportunity that getting a third party involved in a discussion after the fact. So if nobody comes in, but Stevens feels uncomfortable, finally this has got to go away. If he wants to address it, he should go to somebody like Gunnery Sergeant or somebody else and say, hey, this is what happened when I was up in the classroom. And that way, Gunnery Sergeant or whoever you talk to about it can go to Stewart and say, hey, I understand this happened in the classroom, and their behavior is completely inappropriate, and this is why it's inappropriate. And now you got a senior leader talking to the person, not just another midshipman or another petty officer of that same rank or something like that.
Alright, so 7-2 is we are doing verbal harassment, and I will be Ensign Sickleman, doing narrator. This will be Seaman Joswick. This will be the PO2 Harris.